You are standing at the edge of two realities. One is the life you have been living every day, filled with patterns you know by heart, habits that feel safe, and emotions that have become familiar. The other is a version of life that you have only imagined, a reality that feels distant yet somehow deeply connected. Between these two worlds, there is a thin line, invisible to the eye but powerful beyond measure. That line is your identity. Your identity is not just a collection of memories or labels. It is the frequency you broadcast into the quantum field every second of your life. It is the signal that tells reality what shape to take when it collapses into form. The observer effect in quantum physics tells us that the act of observation changes the outcome of what is observed. But observation is not only about looking with your eyes. It is about the energetic state you hold in your body and mind. Your state of being is the observer that instructs the quantum field which version of reality to materialize for you. Every thought, every emotion, every belief is part of the code that your identity sends out. If that code stays the same, your reality will repeat itself over and over again. No matter how many affirmations you say or how many goals you write down. To truly shift your reality, you must go deeper than positive thinking. You must dismantle the old identity that has been holding the code in place and step fully into a new state of being. This is not an abstract concept. This is the practical application of quantum mechanics to your life. It is the bridge between theory and transformation. Why your old self is your biggest prison. Your old self is not just a memory of who you used to be. It is a living program that runs every day in your mind and body. You might think you are choosing your actions, but in truth, most of them are already decided before you are even aware of them. Neuroscience shows that your brain and body operate largely from stored patterns. These patterns are created through repeated experiences, reinforced by emotions, and embedded into your nervous system. When you wake up in the morning, your body remembers how you felt yesterday. It remembers the tone of your thoughts, the emotional reactions you had, the choices you made. Without conscious intervention, you will replay them almost exactly. This is why it feels so difficult to change. You are not just trying to think differently. You are trying to break the gravitational pull of an identity that has been programmed over years or even decades. The old self resists change because it thrives on familiarity. Even if that familiarity is painful, it is still known and the body is addicted to what it knows. Your nervous system treats unfamiliar emotional states as unsafe, even if they are positive. So you unconsciously sabotage new experiences to return to the comfort of what is familiar. When you cling to your old self, you keep collapsing the same reality again and again. The quantum field is infinite, but you are tuning into the same narrow frequency band every day. It is like watching the same scene in a movie over and over while the rest of the film remains unwatched. The prison is not physical. It is the invisible cage of identity. To step out of it, you must be willing to let the old self die. This is the starting point of true transformation. Until you accept that the person you have been is not the person you are becoming, the doorway to a new reality will remain closed. The quantum code hidden in your identity. In quantum physics, reality is not a fixed structure. It is a field of infinite probabilities waiting to be shaped. What becomes real is not chosen randomly. It collapses into form based on the energy of the observer. You are the observer. But this is where most people misunderstand the process. Observation is not only about what you consciously focus on. It is about the frequency you carry in your entire state of being. That frequency is made of your thoughts, your emotions, and the identity you live from. If your identity is still rooted in the past, your energy will keep broadcasting the same instructions to the quantum field. Even if you are visualizing new outcomes or saying new affirmations, your underlying state will override them. The field does not respond to your words alone. It responds to the coherence or lack of it between what you say you want and who you are being in this moment. Think of your identity as a code written into a program. Each belief is a line of code. Each emotional habit is another line. Together, they run the script that generates your life experience. When you repeat the same beliefs and emotions, the code does not change, so the output does not change. You might desire abundance, love, or freedom, but if your code is still running fear, doubt, and limitation, the field will reflect that frequency back to you. This is why identity transformation is the most direct path to changing your reality. You do not force the quantum field to give you something. You change the code you are sending out so that the field naturally collapses into a different probability. When your thoughts, emotions, and sense of self are aligned with a new reality, you stop chasing it. You start living it. The observer effect teaches that the act of observation changes the observed phenomena. In your life, that means when you shift your identity, you change the version of reality that appears in front of you. But the shift must be genuine. It cannot be a surface-level performance. You cannot pretend to be someone new while carrying the emotional weight of your old self. The quantum field cannot be fooled. It mirrors your state of being with perfect accuracy. Your energy is your real signature in the field. When you embody a new state, when you feel and act as the person you are becoming rather than the person you have been, you rewrite the code. At that point, reality has no choice but to adjust. The change is not forced. It is inevitable. How your body's memory hijacks your day. You might believe that you are in control of your choices from the moment you wake up, but the truth is that your body has already made most of them before you even think about it. Neuroscience tells us that up to 95% of your daily actions, thoughts, and emotional responses are driven by unconscious patterns. These patterns are stored in your nervous system and reinforced through repetition. They are not just mental habits. They are physical and chemical states that your body has learned to expect. When you wake up, your brain quickly reconnects with the memory of who you were yesterday. Your body recalls the familiar emotions you felt, whether they were stress, doubt, excitement, or fear. It remembers the rhythm of your thoughts and the tone of your inner dialogue. Without conscious effort, you begin to recreate the same emotional environment. And once that environment is active, your behavior follows it automatically. This is why change feels like such a struggle. You are not only trying to think new thoughts, you are attempting to rewire an entire system that has become addicted to the emotions of your past self. Your body treats these emotions as a form of stability, even if they are destructive. If you have lived in anxiety for years, peace will feel unfamiliar. If you have carried resentment for a long time, forgiveness will feel foreign. The nervous system interprets unfamiliar as unsafe, so it unconsciously drives you back to what it knows. The result is that you repeat yesterday almost exactly. You meet the same challenges in the same way. You see opportunities through the same lens. You react to people with the same emotional tone. And because your identity is tied to these patterns, the quantum field receives the same signal from you every single day. That signal is a blueprint, and reality faithfully builds according to it. To break free, you must interrupt this cycle. You must become aware of the emotional patterns that have been running without your permission. Awareness is the first disruption. When you catch yourself repeating an old reaction, you create a gap. In that gap, you have the chance to choose differently. Each time you choose a new emotional response, you send a different signal to your body and to the field. Over time, the new signal becomes your default, and your reality begins to shift in ways that once seemed impossible. This is not instant magic. It is deliberate, consistent reprogramming of the identity your body has memorized. But once the shift begins, it accelerates. As the new state becomes familiar, your nervous system stops resisting it. The body aligns with the mind, and the mind aligns with the reality you are now broadcasting. Emotional frequency, the real manifestation tool. Manifestation is not about wishing for something and hoping it appears. It is not simply imagining a future or repeating positive words. At the deepest level, manifestation is about the frequency you broadcast into the quantum field. That frequency is created by the emotional state you hold most of the time. Your emotions are not invisible or insignificant. They are measurable electromagnetic signals that interact with the reality around you. Your heart and brain are the most powerful transmitters you have. When your thoughts and emotions are aligned, they generate a coherent electromagnetic field that extends beyond your body. This field is what communicates with the quantum possibilities around you. If you think of abundance but feel scarcity, the field does not respond to the thought. It responds to the feeling. If you imagine love but carry the vibration of fear or distrust, the field will reflect that vibration back to you. This is why so many people say that manifestation does not work for them. They try to think positively while their emotional frequency stays rooted in their old identity. The mismatch creates static in the signal, and the reality that forms continues to mirror the deeper, more consistent vibration. The universe or the field is not ignoring you. It is matching you perfectly at the level of energy. To shift your reality, you must first shift your emotional baseline. This is not about pretending to feel good when you do not. It is about training your body and mind to live in the emotions of your desired reality before it arrives. When you practice gratitude, peace, joy, or confidence consistently, your body begins to memorize these states just as it once memorized stress or doubt. Over time, the new emotions become familiar, and the frequency you broadcast changes. When your emotional frequency matches the reality you desire, manifestation stops feeling like effort. You are no longer trying to pull something toward you. Instead, you are resonating with it so strongly that it naturally moves into your experience. This is how quantum alignment works. The field does not have to be convinced. It only has to be matched. Every time you choose to feel as your future self would feel, you are sending a precise signal into the field. That signal shapes probabilities. It influences which version of reality collapses for you. The more consistent the signal, the more inevitable the shift becomes. Your emotions are the language that reality understands best. When you learn to speak that language fluently, reality listens. Why positive thinking rarely works? Positive thinking by itself is not enough to create the transformation you seek. You can fill your mind with affirmations and visualize your goals every day. But if the emotional and physical state of your body remains tied to the past, the results will be temporary or non-existent. The mind can imagine change, but the body often refuses to follow unless it has been rewired to support the new identity. Your subconscious mind stores patterns that have been reinforced over years. These patterns live in the neural pathways of your brain and in the chemical memory of your cells. When you think a new thought that is not supported by your emotional memory, the body quickly pulls you back into alignment with what it already knows. This is why you might start the day feeling inspired but end it repeating the same behaviors you were trying to change. Positive thinking alone is like changing the title of a movie without altering the scenes inside. The story stays the same because the deeper script has not been rewritten. The old identity remains in control, and the quantum field continues to receive the same signal from you. It mirrors that signal perfectly, giving you more of what aligns with your true state of being rather than your surface-level thoughts. This is not to say that positive thinking has no value. It can open the door to new possibilities, but it must be paired with emotional alignment and embodied change. Your body must experience the feelings associated with the reality you desire. When your emotions match your thoughts, the signal you broadcast becomes coherent and the field responds with precision. The challenge is that your body resists unfamiliar emotions, even when they are beneficial. Joy can feel uncomfortable if you have lived in sadness. Confidence can feel unnatural if you have spent years in self-doubt. The nervous system seeks familiarity, not necessarily what is best for you. To overcome this, you must practice new emotional states until they become familiar enough for your body to accept them as normal. When the body and mind are aligned, positive thinking becomes a powerful tool because it is no longer in conflict with your deeper programming. You are not just thinking about change, you are living it. At that point, your thoughts amplify your emotional frequency rather than fighting against it. This is the state in which manifestation becomes effortless and change becomes a natural extension of who you are. Observer effect, the physics of instant shifts. The observer effect in quantum physics reveals something extraordinary. The very act of observing a phenomenon changes the outcome of what is observed. In the laboratory, particles exist in a state of infinite possibilities until they are observed. The observation causes the wave of probabilities to collapse into a specific form. This is not a distant concept, limited to scientists in white coats. It is the same principle that operates in your life every single moment. You are the observer of your own reality. Every moment you are broadcasting an energetic state into the quantum field, and that state is influencing which version of reality collapses in front of you. The most important truth to understand is that the field responds to the quality of your observation. If you are observing your life through the lens of your old identity, you are collapsing the same familiar outcomes over and over. The details may shift slightly, but the underlying patterns remain unchanged. When you change your identity, you change the way you observe reality. This is not about pretending to be someone else. It is about genuinely altering your state of being so that the signal you send into the field matches a new set of possibilities. As your inner state changes, so does the version of reality that appears to you. The shift can be immediate because the field has no time delay. It reflects your current state, not your past intentions. This is why transformation can feel sudden when it finally happens. You might work for months or years to release old emotional patterns, and then in a single moment of deep coherence, everything changes. That moment is the collapse of a new probability into your physical experience. From the outside, it may look like chance or luck, but in truth, you have been aligning your observation with this outcome all along. Your consciousness is the ultimate instrument of creation. The more aware you become of how you are observing your life, the more power you have to shift it instantly. This awareness is not about controlling every thought, but about mastering the emotional and energetic state from which those thoughts arise. When you live from the perspective of your desired self, the observer effect works in your favor and new realities emerge with precision. You are not a passive participant in the unfolding of your life. You are the determining factor. Each observation you make is a command to the field, a choice between the old and the new, between the familiar and the infinite. The moment you begin to observe from the identity you wish to embody, the physics of instant shifts becomes your natural way of life. The future self that already exists in another timeline. In the framework of quantum possibilities, every version of you already exists. Each choice you could make, each path you could walk, each transformation you could embody is alive in another timeline. The self you dream of becoming is not an idea you have to invent from nothing. It is a version of you that is already real in a parallel possibility, waiting for you to align with it. Think of these timelines as channels on a radio. They are all broadcasting simultaneously, but you can only hear the one you are tuned into. Your current identity determines your frequency, and that frequency determines which version of yourself you experience. If your energy is still tuned to the channel of your old self, you will keep receiving the same reality, no matter how much you long for the new one. But when you shift your state to match your future self, you change the channel. You begin to receive the broadcast of a different life. This is not abstract philosophy. In quantum terms, you are constantly collapsing probabilities into physical reality through your observation and your energetic state. Your future self is a probability that becomes more dominant in the field the more you align with it. When you feel, think, and act as that future self would, you strengthen the signal of that version until it overrides the old one. The shift can be so seamless that it feels as if the new life simply appeared, but in truth you tuned into it. This concept is not about escaping your current reality. It is about merging with the highest expression of yourself that is already accessible. You do not have to wait for external events to push you into change. The change begins the moment you choose to match your frequency to the version of yourself that is already living in the reality you desire. The multiverse theory suggests that all possible outcomes exist simultaneously. You are not moving through time as much as you are moving through states of being. When you alter your state, you step into the version of the timeline that matches it. This is why some shifts feel instant. One moment you are living in one set of circumstances, and the next you find yourself in a new flow of events, opportunities, and connections that align perfectly with your new state. Your future self is calling you through the emotions you long to feel, the visions that inspire you, and the desires that do not go away. It is not trying to convince you of something you cannot have. It is inviting you to remember what is already true in another layer of reality. When you answer that call by embodying the identity of your future self now, the separation between you and that reality disappears. The two merge and the new life becomes your present. The 4 phases of quantum identity transformation. Transforming your identity is not about making a single decision and hoping it sticks. It is a process that unfolds in clear phases, each one building on the last. When you understand these phases, you can move through them with intention rather than frustration. They are the roadmap for dissolving your old self and fully embodying your new one. The first phase is awareness. You cannot change what you do not see. In this phase, you begin to notice the thoughts you repeat, the emotions you cycle through, and the reactions you have without thinking. You observe how your old identity shows up in your daily life. Awareness is powerful because it interrupts the autopilot. It creates space between stimulus and response. In that space, you begin to see that you are not your patterns. You are the one observing them. The second phase is deconstruction. Here, you actively break the connection between your identity and your old patterns. You stop feeding the emotional states that keep you in the past. You disrupt routines that anchor you to who you used to be. This is the phase where discomfort often rises because you are stepping into unfamiliar territory. The body and mind may resist, but that resistance is a sign that the old programming is losing control. The third phase is reprogramming. Once the old patterns are weakened, you begin to install new ones. You choose thoughts, emotions, and actions that align with the reality you want to live. You practice feeling gratitude before the external change arrives. You act in ways your future self would act. Over time, these new choices become more natural, and the old ones lose their pull. Your nervous system begins to accept the new state as familiar. The fourth phase is embodiment. This is when your new identity becomes your default. You no longer have to remind yourself to think differently or feel differently because the shift has become who you are. Your body, mind, and energy are unified in broadcasting the frequency of your new self. At this point, the quantum field reflects your new state consistently, and your reality changes in ways that feel effortless. These 4 phases are not always linear. You may revisit awareness even after reaching embodiment. Each new level of growth brings new layers to observe, deconstruct, and reprogram. But as you move through the process repeatedly, it becomes easier and faster. You learn to release old identities without fear because you trust the expansion that follows. Transformation is not a single event. It is a way of living in which you are always evolving toward the highest version of yourself. The more you practice these phases, the more naturally you step into realities that once felt unreachable. Living fully as the new you. Killing the old you is only the beginning. Once the past identity is dissolved, the real work is in sustaining the new self until it becomes unshakable. This is where many people falter. They step into a higher state for a short time, but they drift back into old habits when challenges arise. Living fully as the new you requires commitment, not to a set of rigid rules, but to the frequency and the state of being that define your highest self. Each day is a choice point. You will encounter situations that tempt you to respond as your old self would have. These moments are not setbacks. They are opportunities to anchor your new identity more deeply. When you choose to act from your new state instead of your old patterns, you reinforce the signal you are sending into the quantum field. The more consistent this signal becomes, the more stable your new reality grows. Living fully as the new you also means aligning your environment with your new state. Surround yourself with people, places, and experiences that reflect the reality you are creating. The field responds not only to your inner state, but also to the energy you immerse yourself in. When your surroundings support your new identity, the shift becomes effortless because everything around you is feeding the frequency you have chosen. Your language matters too. The words you use shape your perception of yourself and your life. Speak as your future self would speak. Describe your reality in a way that reflects your new state, even before the physical proof appears. The quantum field will respond to the coherence between your words, your emotions, and your actions. Most importantly, living fully as the new you requires trust. Trust that the reality you are aligning with already exists. Trust that your consistent state is guiding you toward it. Trust that each choice you make from this identity is collapsing the probabilities in your favor. The more you live in trust, the less you feel the need to force outcomes. You simply live as if it is already done, and in the eyes of the quantum field, it is. You are no longer chasing a vision. You are inhabiting it. The old self has no power over you because it no longer exists in the reality you occupy. You have stepped into the version of yourself that has always been waiting, and now the only direction left is forward. If this message resonated with you, subscribe now to stay connected with the energy that awakens you. Like this video to anchor this frequency in your field. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a transmission that your spirit needs. And comment below, I am the frequency. Let the universe hear your voice. You're not here by chance. You're here to rise and remember who you truly are.